Hello and welcome to the Car Camera channel and welcome to the 2026 Lexus RX500h F-Sport Performance. Very long name for a highly anticipated car by me. I've been waiting to have one for a week for a very long time, so you can check it out and go through it because this is a performance hybrid model, one of the very first. And in today's video, we're going to do a proper technical review under the hood, take a look underneath it, inside and out, some things we like, some things we do not like, right after this. Let's start our technical review under the hood. Now, the 500h has a unique powertrain, and we'll talk about it in details today. Let's start with the engine. This is a familiar engine, a T24A FTS. This is a 2.4 liter four-cylinder engine. This does have, let's start with mechanical construction at the top, does have a plastic valve cover. Kind of see it right here. On top of this valve cover, though, you do have a rail for the direct injectors. That's the only thing we do not like about that, because if you want to remove this valve cover, you got to remove all these injectors and the seals and the whole nine yards. It makes it very complicated, very un-Toyota-like. Let's put it this way. Underneath that is a two-piece cylinder head with hydraulic lifters and roller rockers. This does have, of course, dual overhead cam with dual VVTi. They are oil controlled, so you can see oil control valves right here. Very, very simple. Underneath that is an aluminum block with the main caps integrated into one cradle that goes at the bottom. This is a timing chain engine with two timing chains, one for the cams to the crank, one for the oil pump. This does have a variable displacement oil pump. This is a turbocharged engine. So you have a turbo all the way in the back, manifold in the front. This turbo is oil and coolant cooled. It does have a liquid to air intercooler. So the intercooler sits right here in this area, and then it does have a vacuum operated wastegate. I don't have a problem with that. It keeps things very simple. The cooling system in this engine, it does have a mechanical water pump, which is a surprise for as high-tech as this engine is. This engine also does have a coolant distribution valve that sends coolant where it needs to go. This engine also has D4S, so you have 4 direct injectors sit on top of the valve cover, unfortunately, 4 port injectors, and then the high-pressure fuel pump also sits on top of the valve cover. Having said that about the engine, let's talk about what's next to it, because that's where the 500h magic is. So let's quickly recap the RX lineup. You have the RX350, which has the T24A FTS alone. Then you have the RX350H, which is a hybrid. That has a 4-cylinder 2.5 liter. Similar engine to this, but non-turbo and slightly bigger in displacement. That's just a standard hybrid, just like every other hybrid from Toyota. Then we have the plug-in, which is also similar to that. But then there's this one. Here's what they did with this one. This has a regular 6-speed automatic transmission. Nothing about it. PC60, that's the name for it. Standard automatic transmission with 6 speeds. I just wish we were kind of jealous. We wish we don't have the 8-speed, we have the 6-speed and everything. Moving on. Between the engine and the transmission, you have an electric motor. That electric motor is actually pretty large, and it has a clutch. That clutch engages or disengages the engine. This motor is connected to the transmission. So here's what this motor can do. This motor can drive the powertrain, basically drive the transmission. It could also, if you needed to, it could start the engine. But when the engine starts, that motor could assist the engine to drive the transmission, or it could sit idly, let the engine turn it, and then it generates and charges the battery. But in addition to that, that's not the end of the hybrid system. In the rear, you have a pretty sophisticated, giant electric motor borrowed from an electric car that has its own inverter and the whole 9 yards. That's a very powerful motor, and we'll look at it when we look underneath it. It's huge. That's how they did this. Basically, minus the rear motor, which is definitely an addition here, this is similar to the 1MHV system from like the Tundra, Sequoia, LX700h. This is a similar system. It doesn't have 2 motors, it has single, but in this one, technically it has 2 because you can count the rear one as well. Now let's look at some of the kind of construction of this. Much smaller inverter here. If you look at it, This is not big, folks. This is actually pretty small because this only drives the front motor and it's single, doesn't drive two motors because the rear has its own inverter sitting on it. Basically what this does is it sends power to the motor to energize it. When the motor is generating, it takes that power, flips it to DC, charges the battery. It also powers up the compressor, which is electric. This car also does not have an alternator, so there's a DC to DC converter that takes the high voltage, steps it down to 12 volts and all that. Folks, there's one thing about this powertrain that you need to know. I mean, look at this. Does this look like a simple? No, it is not. Or it's a giant mess if you ask me. But it could be worse. This is all I'm going to say, because we've seen some other cars that are like, wow, can you make a four-cylinder more complicated? I feel like this part right here is what makes this look very busy, but it actually isn't, because this just takes all this empty space and there's nothing here. This is the air filter housing. I like that they were able to integrate it here. It goes all the way to the back because it has to go to the turbo, and then this pipe comes here straight into the intake, which is where the liquid to air intercooler is. The only thing about this car that keeps it busy is the coolant hoses. There's a lot of coolant hoses. There is a lot of coolant hoses. That's all I'm going to tell you. This car does have a dedicated circuit for the intercooler, inverter, and then the regular engine coolant. Folks, this all sounds amazing. They are going after a performance hybrid, making all these big numbers. Do they though? Here's the reality. If this did not have the rear motor, the performance levels out of this would be not good. Let's just get that straight. I don't think the single motor can actually produce the numbers that this powertrain produces. It's really the addition of the rear motor is what makes it to the level. And the level that we keep saying level, it makes 366 horsepower. Let's just go back a few years. 2022, previous generation Lexus RX, that made 300 horsepower. So I wouldn't call 66 horsepower a giant leap forward on a performance-oriented model. That's the first thing. Second thing is, you drive it, it is fast. But I wouldn't call it slam you in your seat fast. That's the problem. Now, 0-60 time is 5.9. The previous one was like a whole second slower, the previous generation with the V6. But also, I wouldn't call this, when you consider the price jump, I wouldn't consider this as a massive improvement given the level of complication that we have. Because as complicated as the 2G RFKS in the previous generation, this is a lot more complicated. There's no other way to say it. Folks, unfortunately, this will be the beginning of things not going well with this review, because I like the new RX. Yeah, the V6 is gone. Yeah, the engine is a little bit buzzy, but they did everything else right, with the exception of a few things inside to talk about. But this trim, I am not seeing why it cost $79,000. This one is tested. You're into GX territory and well into it at that point. I don't know. I had a hard time with this one. Let's keep going and we'll see where we end up with. Let's take a look underneath the 2026 Lexus RX500h F-Sport Performance. Need to take a breath after that long name. Everything's covered in the front. I would like to draw sharp attention to the brakes immediately, because we really got to talk about these. I mean, where do I start? The massive 6-piston caliper or the orange painted massive 6-piston caliper? I mean, this giant wheel looks so small when you look at these giant rotors. Can we just have a talk about these so I can restore my sanity here? Look, I get what they're trying to do with this car. It's the performance model. And what performance model doesn't need giant brakes in the front? Except here's the problem. The previous generation, RX, had a 2G RFKS. That made 300 horsepower. This makes 366 horsepower. If the brakes for the previous one were sufficient, why weren't for 66 more horsepower, why were the normal brakes sufficient? That's statistic number one. Statistic number two, the regular RX350, which has the same engine, but not 366 horsepower. I think it has right around 275, which is more than sufficient. It has normal brakes, 2-piston caliper, nothing over the top. The stopping distance for that one, from 60 to 0, is 123 feet, which is not impressive, but not bad either. This one with the earth stopper right here, this is what I call brakes like that, it's a non-impressive 119 feet to 123. That's literally their range. I'm sorry, that's hardly the improvement. And if you're telling me that these brakes are meant for track use, I would like you to re-examine the whole car. This is not a track car, not even close. So these brakes are ridiculous. These rotors are $600 each. That's all you're going to remember from these brakes. Because the best part is, we've been driving this car for a week. This morning I drove a 2024 RX350 that came in the shop. The brakes felt exactly the same. They're very nice feeling brakes. These also feel very nice. But I didn't feel these like really stronger or just maybe on a track use. Again, here goes that word. These will hold better, but again, does it look like a track car? Not to me, because McPherson strut at the top. Yes, it has ABS and all that, but this is as basic of suspension as they come. Steel lower control arm, separate ball joint, aluminum knuckle. Everything is very standard. If you go drive a very nice Camry with hubcaps, it will have the exact same suspension, minus the adjustable shock. That's moving on from that. Everything is covered here, which is actually nice because you don't see a lot. The exhaust kind of takes a little detour to the side. Very nice quality exhaust. It's not the highest quality from Toyota, but it's definitely still good. Fuel tank is right here. Then we get to this monstrosity right here. So this is part of the Direct 4 system. Basically, for lack of a better word, this is a motor for, at least from what I'm seeing, from an electric car. Makes a lot of power, this motor. It does have an inverter on top of it. I mean, this is the real deal. This is not the same stuff you find in a hybrid. This does take the hybrid TE fluid. So if you look here, it says TE on the fill plug, just to remind you. And then we get to, before we talk about the rear suspension, which, let's talk about this. Bring the camera here. Let's look at this. This is a rear steering rack. This car turns rear steering. I just have one small concern, just a small one. And I'm pretty sure they figured that one out. This is such a small turn that I'm just wondering what's going to happen in the future to this very bushing, these two bushings. I mean, you are basically twisting these bushings every time you turn this wheel. Because this looks like an exact same suspension from a regular RX. We just stuck this on and said, well, these bushings will hold. And the degree it turns is so small, I don't even know it makes a difference. But it makes a difference in the price. Because if this goes out, or some of the internal gear has play, we're talking big bucks here, because this is a very bespoke one-off part for this very car. Again, in a track car, this will be great because it gives you a little bit additional coring. Does this strike you as a track car? It does not to me. Now let's look at the back suspension. Back suspension is as simple as they come. Again, if you go look at a Highlander, it'll have the exact same suspension, minus this. Steel arms at the bottom, aluminum knuckle, steel arm at the top. Very nice quality and construction sway bar over here. I really like that. Now these shocks are also adjustable. This is part of the ABS, which is on this particular car. We'll talk about the ride in a little bit, but doesn't make a huge difference. That's all I'm going to say. Then we look here. I like this cover. I just wish it would extend it a little bit more up. Over here, same thing. I can live with that. At least something's better than nothing. Folks, the quality of things here are nice. They're not the top from what we've seen from Lexus, but I'm just really having a hard time justifying this and the massive front brakes, because the rear brakes, standard single piston caliper, they are orange though, so there is 3 horsepower there, with an integrated electric motor for the parking brake. So that's a setup that is simple, we don't have issues with that. But the rear brakes are pretty much similar to the regular one. The fronts, yeah, that's where I have some issues. Let's take a look at the outside of the Lexus RX500h F-Sport Performance. F-Sport Performance, long names. Thing looks pretty sharp. The last thing we thought we would say about an RX is it looks sharp. It doesn't look nice and classy, because that's what it's supposed to be. It does look sharp. It's definitely an interesting design. The grille is, I mean, the spindle grille is there, but it's not there. That's one thing about it. Now the gaps and the fit and finish is different story. That's, yeah. Does have the appearance package, which has the growth at the bottom. Overall, maybe not in this particular color, but if you get it in black, this is a looker. It does look, they did manage to take an ordinary regular car and make it look interesting a little bit. Then we go to the side, and first you have the badge, which actually, this badge, it is nicely done, but I think, in my opinion, that is the worst thing that ever happened to Lexus. On the side, I do have one thing. This is a typical RX profile, which I don't have any problems with. Now, the paint quality, not as good as you expect from Lexus, but I do have one thing. This is a performance model. Why would we have an option for a mud flap that completely ruins the look? You see that? I understand that's just an option, but why is there such an option to begin with? If we're going to go after a performance model, we should not allow such options because they ruin the look. But here they are. And then we talked about the brakes, but look at this giant orange caliper. I mean, that is the next level orange of all colors. Now, you cannot change that. You can only get orange or not orange. That's the option. But for the most part, everything else is typical RX. These handles that are horrendous. I really dislike these handles. They're electronic, so there's actually a button here that opens the door. But in case you own one of these, there is a manual release, which is a super flimsy thing. Just make sure you don't break it. And that is supposed to open it in case of an emergency. Same thing in the back doors. You have the same flimsy handle. There's lock-unlock on both front and rear doors, which is nice. And then we wrap around the back. I think the back does look nice. They did add something at the bottom. So it does say Lexus here, written out, not logo, which is nice. I like that the badging, they did not get carried away. RX500h Direct 4. They should be proud of that Direct 4, because I think that's the most important part about it. It does look pretty good on the back. Not my favorite color, this one, and the paint being the way it is, not. Anyways, moving on. Part of the appearance package, or some package, you get these F-Sport mats. Okay, it's nicely done. They're actually nice mats. But there's not a lot of performance cars out there, because that's what they're advertising it to be, with a spare tire. How about that? And the battery is also back here. It's a decent space. Folks, the interior, other than the seats, we'll talk about, it's pretty much the same as the regular RX. This one has the power second row, so you can fold it and bring it back electronically. This does have dual motors in the back with the wire going through the door, which is a really nice touch. Having said that, let's take a look at the inside, because this is where we got one thing that is, yeah. For the most part, the interior of this car, it is basically the exact same as a regular RX. It has the exact same giant infotainment screen with everything in it but 2 buttons. The same rotary dials here for the temperature. The same ridiculous buttons on the steering wheel, with which you have to use the heads-up display to know what button each button does. I suppose you can get used to this, but I just don't see the reasoning behind it. It just makes absolutely no sense, other than we would like a gimmick. This one does have the, depends how you look at it, the Prius shifter or the LC500 shifter. Let's say the LC500 shifter. So I don't have a problem with this. At least we have gotten used to it by now. The interior is very nice. I don't particularly like the material they use here, but I suppose it works. The only thing we got to talk about with the interior of the 500h are the seats. This is the fire-breathing, it's literally red, it's a fire-breathing performance seat. So when you are flying at 200 miles an hour on the track and you make a very sharp turn, you would not slide from it. Folks, let's just say one thing. This is the most uncomfortable seat I've been in a Lexus. The bolsters are so aggressive. There is no position you can sit in that they are not just digging into your back. And that, driving this car, I already have back pain. I do have problems with my back doing what I do, but these are super uncomfortable seats. Some folks have said, yeah, after some use, you get used to them and they break in, whatnot. Why do we need these seats? We do not need these seats. This car is not a track car. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Why do we need these seats? They are not comfortable. They are unnecessary. They accomplish absolutely nothing. The only thing they do add 2-3 more horsepower, but it accomplishes nothing. This is a very nice interior. Yeah, it does have the gimmicky steering wheel and no controls of the HVAC that are all on the screen. But it's a very nice interior. Even in this performance model, it does ride smooth. You've noticed a little bit more jarring ride when you're in normal mode, but it's a nice interior. It's quiet, it's refined, it looks nice, it functions nicely. It's a pretty premium feeling interior. Then you have these seats that are completely out of place. Why? I wish they would stop doing that, because they love to do that. Every sport car has horrible seats for nothing. That's my only complaint about the interior. Everything else is nice. This is horrible. There's no other way to say it. I'm trying to be nice here. So, the Lexus RX500h. I'm going to start this by saying one thing. This is the third most anticipated car by me, and that turns out to be one of the most disappointing. This is number 3 from Toyota and Lexus. First is a Camry TRD. That was it. Yeah, almost bought one and then didn't buy it. Second one was the Lexus LSF Sport 2025 model. Well, that's discontinued. Then this. Let's talk about why that is. There's two ways to look at this car. If you look at it as a performance SUV, that is one way. Or if you look at it as another RX trim, that is the hot RX trim. Let's start with the performance parts first, because this is what this is supposed to be. This is a performance SUV. Let's just say that this trails behind simply everything on every level, because RX and sporty just simply do not belong in the same word from the inception all the way to today. That's not their thing. And Lexus is really pushing hard on this sport and performance and this and that. No, that's not. Let's talk about it, because here's what you have. Here's a recipe of this car. You have a very powerful powertrain, 366 or somewhere around there horsepower. That sounds okay. It's nothing earth-shattering, but it's okay. Massive front brakes that do absolutely nothing. Rear steering does absolutely nothing. Because when you go drive this car, it is a little bit stiffer than a regular RX, and if you put it in sport, it becomes very jarring. It's not what I describe as athletic in the handling department. It's better than a regular RX, but not what I call performance, athletic. Usually performance SUVs, maybe they're not meant for a track, but the way they are marketing this, they kind of went there. I never hope to see one of these on a track, because this is not what it's meant to do. Not even close. But then if that's the case, we start to question, so why do we need the massive brakes in the front? Because I'm sorry, 366 horsepower is a lot of power, and this thing picks up and goes very quickly. But it's not enough power to really justify the massive front brakes. The rotors are $600 each. The cost of a brake job on this car is not cheap. That's the first problem. And why do we have these brakes to begin with? I have no idea. Oh, but it gets so much worse than that. That rear steering rack, if that goes out and has something internally with it, that's a chilling $7,000. You drive this, you never know it has rear steering. But wait, when you take it on a high performance ride on a track, you will. But this is not a track car. And then the seats are horrendously uncomfortable. I can understand this if this was a real track car where we need those seats so you wouldn't be sliding off the seat. I get that, but this is not it. So why do we have these horrendously uncomfortable seats? And in an otherwise a very nice car. Then we go back to the Lexus RX side. Current generation Lexus RX is a nice one. It's quiet, it's refined, it's modern, but still have some of that classic Lexus. The only thing against it is the engine. We don't have a smooth V6 that is quiet. The 4-cylinder does buzz around, but that's the only downside. But overall, it's a nice generation. But then there's this one. All that, okay, we want the fast one. We want the good looks and the big brakes and the whole performance model. But that comes at a price. Pretty hefty price, because this particular one we are testing right here is almost $79,000. Let's that sink in for a moment. I'm sorry. For that price, you are in the territory of so many other cars that are much better performance than this if you're after performance. And if you're after, well, those are performance cars. I just want something that's reliable and not going to break the bank. What's wrong with the regular RX350? Because it's no slouch. It's not the fastest car in the world, but it's not a slouch either. And this is very complicated behind the scenes. And it doesn't really, it's not comfortable. It's less smooth than the previous ones. And potentially cost a lot more to own. So what is the point of this car? Where are we going with it? That's the problem. This is yet another F car that is very nice, ruined by the F Sport badge. That's the best way. Because if you have the regular seats from an RX here, nothing would change about this car. It's a fast car, it's nice, it's exclusive, it's pretty quick, it does get decent gas mileage. But why do we need these seats? And why do we need the rear steering? And why do we need the massive brakes? Because you actually do not need those. Because the stopping difference between this and the regular RX350 is not massively improved in this. Yeah, I understand this is faster, but still, it's not needed. That's the problem. This is yet another car that is half done. Not really, they did not have a heading. See, I'll give you an example with that. The Lexus ISF. That had a heading. That was a serious car. That was a car that from its inception, we're gonna do things properly. And they did. And it was properly. Then the Lexus IS500. That was semi-half cooked. Because why is it not the ISF? Because they did not go all the way in. But the IS500 is much better than this. This, on the other hand, was just a box check. Let's make a high-performance model that is not really high performance. And let's put all these bits on it and all this stuff just for show. There is nothing more wrong about an RX with orange calipers. It's just an offending color on an RX. That's my humble opinion. Red is okay. Any other color but orange just looks off in any RX. Here's the recipe for the RX in case someone forgot about it. It's a classy, sophisticated, comfortable, reliable car. And that's what you get with the other models, with the other RX350, RX350H. Yeah, turbo model and all that, I understand that, but still, it does keep that promise. This, on the other hand, with orange calipers, and costs $79,000, and it falls short on everything that it promises. I'm having a hard time with this. And that's exactly why this is the third most anticipated car. I was like a kid on a candy store when we know we were getting one from Lexus to check out. But now I'm deeply disappointed because this is just horrendous. My back hurts. I'm not really thrilled because it's still the steering wheel is vague. The brake feels exactly the same as the regular RX350. Yeah, it's fast. Good gas mileage, but I never want to get in an RX and say it's very fast. No, I want it to be comfortable, and it's not. That's the problem. Folks, I hope this video was helpful and informative. I hope you learned something new. If you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing to the channel. Check out some of my other videos. Until the next video, folks, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and you have yourself a wonderful day.